Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're counting down our picks for the 10 questions we still have about unresolved plot points and other strange things in the Pokemon games. Before we get started, we post new videos all week long, so be sure to subscribe to MojoPlays and ring that bell to be notified about our latest videos. What's underneath Diglett and Dugtrio? These Pokemon are essentially the world's equivalent of whack-a-mole, and much like the classic arcade game, only their heads are visible. No matter what surface they're on, Diglett and its evolved form Dugtrio seemingly consist of just rounded heads poking out of Earth. So that begs the question, what do the rest of their bodies look like? Do Diglett and Dugtrio have paws or claws like the moles that inspired them? Maybe they have something weirder, like a snake or worm body. Whatever the case may be, we'd probably have to give them a whack over their head to get the chance to look. How did a Wailmer end up there? While the game series remains pretty consistent and believable when it comes to Pokemon habitats, sometimes things fall through the cracks. Redditors noticed an unusual inhabitant of the Motorstroke Riverbank area from Pokemon Sword and Shield. In an isolated pond, you can find a Wailmer. The real-world explanation is simple. Some programmer messed up and put an ocean water-type Pokemon way too far inland. But in universe, how did a whale end up living in a pond? Did someone put it there? It's ball-shaped. Did it bounce from a river? And Wailmer sort of hover in battle, so did it fly there? Fans have certainly had a whale of a time trying to solve this mystery. Will they go back to the future? Pokemon Legends Arceus sees the protagonist taken from the Pokemon world's apparent present day and sent back to Hisui, which will one day be the Sinnoh region. Ingo, a character from the Black and White games, has also seemingly been brought to the past. By the game's ending, once you've caught a lot of Pokemon and challenged Arceus, you might think the god Pokemon would send you back to your own time, but nope. You're still stuck. So does Arceus end up sending you back at some point? Or are you and Ingo just going to live out the rest of your lives in the past? Without a sequel or a cool Easter egg, we may never know. Who's the ghost girl? There's no shortage of creepy moments in Pokemon games, but one of the most intriguing spans multiple games. In Pokemon X and Y, if you go to Lumiose City, on the second floor of the fighting dojo, a ghostly hex maniac girl will exit the elevator after you do. She'll claim that you're not the one before gliding away. A similar girl can be found on the 4th floor of the department store in the same city, claiming to be listening for the elevator. This same girl appears in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire at Mount Pyre, where she'll claim that the player in that game isn't the one either. Who she's looking for, what she is, and if it's even the same girl remains unknown. Which Pokemon are okay to eat? Sure, some Pokemon are obviously inedible, rock and steel types for sure, but people do eat Pokemon. We know this from the games. You can eat Slowpoke tails, cloth sticks, and several Pokédex entries refer to eating various other Pokemon. But what's the limit? Some countries in the real world have taboos about eating certain animals, but not others. Is it the same with Pokemon regions? Is there somewhere that deems eating Pikachu acceptable? We get that there are some implications to the Pokemon world that the developers don't want to call attention to like this, but we'd appreciate some clarification on this, or maybe a cookbook. The Cubone conundrum.
Okay, he didn't like that. He did not like that.
Pokédex entries drop some truly weird lore, and one of the most tragic and head-scratching involves Cubone. According to many Pokédex notes, Cubone's skull mask is that of its deceased mother, and given that Cubone is never depicted without a skull mask, the implication is that every single Cubone has lost at least one parent. But this also raises a ton of other questions, like what if the Cubone's not an only child? Where's the other skull come from? And does Cubone's real face resemble a smaller version of the skull it wears? It's just really confusing and dark. What war was Lieutenant Surge in? Whenever you battle the Vermilion City gym leader Lieutenant Surge, the man makes mention of fighting in a war alongside his electric Pokemon. The ramifications of using Pokemon in war are mind-boggling enough, but there are plenty of other questions that arise from Surge's offhand remarks. Is this war why there are so few adults around? Who was the war against? And are there some Pokemon forbidden from being involved in war, like a Pokemon World version of the Genova Conventions? This isn't even the only Pokemon war mystery either, as the Kalos region apparently fought in a war thousands of years ago against an unknown opponent. Where are all the dads?
You're already in Viridian City? It took your father 4 days to get there when he started Pokemon training.
In nearly every Pokemon game, the player character is a kid being raised by their mother with their fathers absent from the picture. Sometimes these unseen dads are mentioned in passing, like your mom got a letter from him or she'll reminisce about him. But besides Norman from the Ruby and Sapphire games, male parents are just anathema in Pokemon games. Out of universe, an absent parent is a common thing in fiction of all kinds. But what's the explanation within the stories? Did they divorce your mom? Are they just working abroad? Are some of them dead? Did they die in one of those aforementioned wars? It's just weird how few dads there are. Where are the non-Pokemon animals? Although people in the Pokemon world clearly eat Pokemon, there are also mentions and sporadic appearances of real-world animals too. Birdkeeper trainers keep actual birds, Lumiose City restaurants serve fish, expressions and text mention real animals like bugs, but the question remains, how many of them are there? And why don't we see more animals? You know, besides the games needing to put Pokemon front and center obviously. Could Pokemon have supplanted most other animals due to their greater strength or intelligence? Now that we think about it, it probably would be hard to compete for food with literal dragons. How do Pokeballs work? We all know the deal. Fight Pokemon, damage them enough, throw a Pokeball, and they're captured. That's what they do, but how does that work? Are the Pokemon shrunk down? Are they transported to another dimension? Have they become digitized? Is it the same principle as how Pokeballs are stored in PCs? Are the Pokemon conscious and aware inside the Pokeballs? Can you store other things besides Pokemon inside them? If so, why would moving trucks exist? It just feels like the more we think about these things that are so central to the franchise, the more questions we have. Is there a Pokemon mystery that has you more confused than Missing No? Don't miss out on telling us your favorites in the comments. Be sure to check out these other fun clips from MojoPlays, and if you enjoy our content, leave us a like, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.